Welcome to tonight's episode of Paramotor Nation. Tonight's episode is brought to you by Fly My PPG. Go see Mike and Justin in beautiful St. John's, Michigan, and learn all that you need to know to fly safely. Pigeon Paramotors. Visit Blake's website as well as his YouTube channel showing everyone his passion for flying. Stop by his merchandise store and pick up something while you are there. I Fly Indiana. Kevin and his team will get you flying in no time. Call Kevin in the great state of Indiana. And Clearwater Pools in Nantucket. You've got a pool, call Craig. But more than anything else, he wants you to support his friend Todd Scandrett and the mission of Resurgence PPG, helping vets soar high and enjoy the freedom of flight. And make sure you stop by the Paramotor Nation website, www.ourparamotornation.com. See all of our sponsors. Visit their websites and YouTube channels, and also make sure you visit everybody in the panel, subscribe, and ring the bell on their YouTube channels as well. As you know, all of the shows come out of their YouTube channels. Now, sit back, relax, enjoy the show. Let's meet tonight's guest and our panel.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Paramotor Nation. PPG Gorilla here. It's Sunday night, that time again, 8 p.m. I'd like to thank all you guys for joining us. We're here to talk about paramotors and everything that makes paramotors great. We're here to share and interview some interesting people. We got a good panel with us tonight. I'd like to introduce my panel. First of all, my co-host, Mr. David Wolf, Paramotor Crazy. You've all seen his videos.
What's going on, everybody? How you doing?
What's up, David? How's it going, man?
Oh, Rick, I'm doing all right, man. I'm doing all right. Thanks for asking. How are you doing? I know you were under the weather, weren't you?
Yeah, I was a little under the weather. I had some food poisoning or something like that. But on behalf of myself and the rest of the panel, we'd like to wish our condolences for the loss of your mother-in-law, my friend.
Yeah, my mother-in-law, great lady, wonderful lady, taught me a lot. Just a wonderful grandmother, wonderful mother to my wife, and mother to me. So really appreciate everybody's condolences. It's been a tough month, 2.5 months, really. But last week's been really, really difficult. So thank you very much. And thank Dave Ruff, who embraced the duties Thursday night with Bo Feldman on his own. So I wish I could have been there. But Dave did a great job with Bo. Appreciate that. And Rick, I'm glad you're feeling better. You know, normally, Rick, we're seeing you drink a little Captain Morgan spiced rum, but I would imagine today you've got more of the Pepto-Bismol going there. So I hope you're feeling better, buddy.
I said I was sick, David. I didn't say I was dead. So,
okay.
So, David, how's the foot launching coming? You got some gear coming. I saw you were kiting the new wing.
Yeah. So Aviator didn't have my wing like they thought they did. The colors that I wanted. which my wife chose the colors. So Rick, when you make fun of it looking like Wonder Woman, I want you to know that you're also making fun of Kelby Cox, who has the exact same colors. So in the meantime, you don't want to mess with Kelby Cox, real American hero right there. So in the meantime, Aviator was kind enough to send me another wing, the same wing as I'm having, just different colors, and that's a Spider 3. I was able to get up yesterday, distract myself by and everything that's been going on in my life and my family's life, and got to do some kiting yesterday. It was really went well till the wind started really shifting around and knocking me down, and so I said, yeah, it's enough of that. But should be getting the Adam 80 hopefully this coming week, and looking forward to finishing my training like a good Jedi and getting up in the air here soon. With that, I haven't really had wanted to get the trike out this morning and last night, but while the wind has been good some days, maybe 100, 200 feet up, it hasn't been so good. And I'll tell you this, I did have two different incidents where I really executed some, I guess, good decision making. I thought, because there was times I was ready to go out and fly, but I just felt with how sick my mother-in-law was and what my wife was going through, I just felt like it wasn't the best time for me to go fly right now, that my head wasn't clear enough to get into the sky. So I opted out of flying those couple of days. So just ready to get back up in the air. Very, very excited too.
That's very smart, my friend. Good decisions. You need to have all your faculties about you and have your mind in the right place if you're gonna go fly anything, for sure. Yeah. Good. So Dave Ruff, Trike Flyer, what's going on, buddy?
Well, been doing a lot of flying. Pretty much every day, just enjoying the time off. I'll be out in Ohio in about 13 days. So looking forward to meeting Paramotor Crazy down there. And Rick, I got a special announcement that I think the panel is going to be really, really interested in. I just wanted to say, guys, I have been 42 months tree free. So that's all I've got.
You can take that how you want, but does that mean you haven't flown into a tree or you haven't smoked a tree?
Well, I haven't flown into a tree. As far as smoking a tree, I can't say, but I did get my tree vaccine last year, and apparently it is working.
All right, you're good. You're good then.
We're staying out of trees. That's our goal for the rest of this year. Nobody flies into a tree. There's been too many tree incidents. I can still taste it. And when we pre-interviewed Rob and his simulator, and when I got to fly it down at Bad Apples, I told him, I said, that tree I flew into, it didn't taste anything like the real thing. I'm a little upset with this whole thing here. So we'll talk about that a little bit.
Guys, we also have with us tonight Nicole Phoenix. Nicole is driving from Lakeland back to her home in North Florida. She's got a new job and she's looking for a new home. So she's driving through some really bad rain right now. She was on with us earlier and she might be back on shortly, but bear with us there. She's going through some bad weather. We told her to concentrate on driving for now. All right, guys. So our guest tonight is Rob Catto. Rob is the inventor of the PPG simulator, the virtual foot flyer. If any of you guys have seen that, he's had it at the fly-ins and stuff around lately. Pretty cool. My dad, Gorilla Ground, got to take a ride in it at Bad Apples. It's a pretty awesome machine. So Rob has been flying PPG since 2005. So he's an OG. He's been around ultralights and aviation for a very long time. So Rob, my first question, how did you come up with the idea for a simulator?
Well, I've been in virtual reality since 1993. This whole idea that it's 5 or 6 years old is not true. I had the first full immersive VR lab in a high school anywhere in the world in 1994. And that actually got me my job at the university. And I started teaching a VR class there. And while doing that, I wanted to get into something a little bit easier to fly than running, Cessna 172s all the time. So I started looking at
general aviation, like a lot of us, before you got into paramotors.
Oh yeah, yeah. I grew up around airplanes. My parents were missionaries, and I grew up in Papua New Guinea. So
okay,
that was the only way to get in and out of the interior. So I've been in and out of airplanes all my life. But idea of combining my two passions, aviation and virtual reality, has always been there. And in 2005, I got into powered paragliding, and VR at the time had basically gone to sleep. In about 2003, 2004, as a commercial entity, it just wasn't anything that was going to happen, because it literally costs about $500,000 to do it right. And about 6 years ago, a gentleman called Palmer Luckey and the Oculus Group, which is now part of Facebook, came out with a headset called the DK1, and it was a Kickstarter, and I jumped in it early. I think they had over 50,000 people sign up for it, and I was at like 1,300 and something. But because of my background in VR already, I already knew that this was going to be something. And before I even got the headset, I started working on combining those two passions, and I started designing the hardware for the virtual foot flyer. And it's about 5 years ago, with the headset and version 1, we started putting it together, and it has morphed into what it is today.
Pretty cool stuff. So how did you start out? Did you start with the software program and come up with the hardware with the actual hanging and everything after that, or?
Well, I'm a dean at Full Sail University, and I started all the game programs there. And there are two game engines that are very popular right now. One is called Unreal, and the other one is called Unity. And we started off developing in Unreal, and there were limitations to that software at the time. So we switched to Unity. And I had already had some of the hardware already designed, because you really can't do a whole heck of a lot until you have the way you can input information. So I really concentrated on developing the hardware first. And then once I had the hardware and figured out how I could design it in such a way that it would be as close to the real thing as possible, and then be able to collect that information. So there are 5 different input devices that we're using, and then a couple output devices, and designed so that the brakes work like your regular brakes, and you sit in the regular harness. Speed bar works, weight shift works, trims work, and everything works the way it's supposed to. I didn't have to fake anything. And then we started working on concentrating on the software. So the software is really made up of 2 parts. There's the programming component, which is all the behind the scenes stuff, and then there's the environments. And each one is difficult in its own way. But you've got to take, the old radios had potentiometers in them, and you turned it right or left, and it changed the resistance in the potentiometer. And because of that, you could read that information and do things with it. And so we've got a potentiometer for each brake, and a potentiometer for the throttle. Well, the computer one has to be able to read that information, and then the program that you're working in has to be able to read it, and then the software side has to be able to do something with it. And so initially we had a very game arcade-like flight dynamics, and took it to Beach Blast one year, and flew it up there, had a bunch of people there. I think the first time we ever had it out anywhere was at the Palm Bay Fly-In. And using the DK1. And the thing about the DK1 is that it only had 3 degrees of freedom tracking. So it would only track roll, pitch, and yaw. But what you really need for those people that have a tendency to get sim sickness, which makes you feel motion sick, is you need to have 6 degrees of freedom, because your brain is so sensitive that if you move your head millimeters and it's not reflected in the simulation, brain says there's something wacky going on here, and all of a sudden it starts revolting and trying to fix things, and that's when you start getting sim sick. And the interesting thing about sim sickness is even if you get out when you start feeling that motion sickness, it'll stay with you for an hour or so after you're out. So wow. People usually get worse after they get out. Well, with the DK1, we had a few people get a little sick. Nobody threw up. Ryan Shaw was one of the ones that had a hard time with the simulator. But
we had a question, Rob, from someone in the chat. John was asking. He said, "I'm assuming this tech is going to be marketed towards PPG schools. Is that something that you plan to market as a training aid, or is it something that's viable commercially like that?"
Well, yes, but it's not an easy yes, because the technology, the computer you have to use, the headset, the hardware that goes along with it, all costs money. And the way it's set up right now, it's set up more for a museum or a Dave and Buster's type environment, simply because they're the ones that could afford it. So right now I'm in the process of trying to get it, the form factor a little different so that it is more affordable to training schools.
It's a very impressive setup. It's no toy. I can see that.
Right.
Very impressive. Yeah.
It's about as close to powered paragliding as you're going to get without putting a motor on your back and going up.
So yeah. Rob, for anybody that hasn't experienced it, which is most people, I would assume, that are in the chat or even on the panel, I'm the only one that did get to experience it at Bad Apples. Can you kind of explain just the whole process? You're going to go sit down, and you're going to come up to the gear. You're going to sit down in the gear. You're going to strap yourself in. You kind of already said that, there's trims, there's everything that you normally would. And I know that there's a couple different choices of what you want to do. I'm not going to steal your thunder. I'd like for you to tell everybody, the different choices that you have as far as almost like a game of choosing your own adventure of what you want to do. And then from there, what you're going to experience and some of the things that you've added on to make it more virtual.
So it's set up so that everything from your hooks on your risers that connect to your wing, everything from that point down is exactly the way it would be with your own harness. We don't have the motor in the front, but
what's that, Rick? I'm sorry, Rick.
My screen share there.
Yeah, we're not seeing it. I think Rick is trying to screen share right now to show a little bit. Go ahead and double click that there, Rick, because right now we're just looking at the icons.
All right,
it's not playing anything.
I'm working on it. Yeah, it's not working for some reason.
All right, okay. That's all right. Let's go back to, if you can unscreen share, and then Rob, let's go back to you and go ahead and just describe it all to us, please.
Sure. So from the hang points on the harness that connect to the wing, everything from that point down is a regular harness, and we sit you in the harness. We don't buckle you up because you're only 2 feet off the ground, but Oh, there you go.
There it is.
So as you can see, you're literally sitting in a harness, and we put the headset on you. There's a set of headphones that come with it. Brake handles are connected to bungees and also to a sensor. Throttle is the same throttle you'd use. And as you can see, when you move your head around, you can change your viewpoint. So it's not like looking at a screen. And that little bit of movement that you see he's doing right now is based on, you know, if you pull down on the left side, you're going to move yourself a little bit to the right. And that little bit of movement, along with the visual movement, convinces your head that you're in a turn and somebody's moving you. In fact, I've had people come off and go, "So how did you move me? I don't see anything on here that would let you do that." And I said, I don't. It's all in your head.
And everything is acting exclusive from everything else, because I remember you can it almost looks like with his hands, one's going up, one's going down, but it's really not. And there I can just see right there in that spot right there that I looked at. You could pull them both down as if you're flaring. And it feels very realistic as far as how much tension as you continue to pull down, which is remarkable that you're able to do that.
Yeah. So on the back of the harness is a bass shaker. And I don't know if you're familiar with what a bass shaker is, but it's just a thing that vibrates. And it's connected to the audio output. And so you literally feel the vibrations of the motor along with the audio that you get in your headset. And then with the visuals at this point in time, back in the day when that video was shot, they were 640 by 480. Right now I've got a 4K headset. So the visuals are quite stunning. And when I'm running it on a computer that's got an NVIDIA 2080 card in it, which is the latest video card out there capable of doing this. It's the only thing that's capable of really displaying a 4K image, because with that headset I'm getting 2160 by 2160 per eye. And you've got head tracking, which means we're not only tracking you in roll, pitch, and yaw, but we're also tracking you in X, Y, and Z, which is helping with those folks that are conducive to getting SimSick. There's about 10% of the population that's going to get SimSick, no matter what we do. It's just that conflict between your inner ear and what your eyes are seeing. Your eyes are seeing a motion, but your inner ear is telling you, no, we're not moving. And that conflict causes your brain to go, we've got a problem here, we need to try and fix it. And in the process of trying to fix it, it causes you to feel like you're motion sick. But the interesting thing about the whole setup is that you can literally get vertigo sitting in the thing, simply because of how realistic the sim is. So we have the visuals, we have the headset audio, which provides you with the audio, and then the bass shaker that gives you the vibration. And then in front of you, we have a couple fans that are tied to velocity. So the faster you go, the faster they blow. So it provides you with that whole wind in your face simulation. And then I've been playing around with adding sense to it. So one of the things about virtual reality is the more senses you can involve, the greater sense of immersion, the deeper sense of presence. So right now we've got haptics, which are the vibration and the fans. We've got the visuals. We've got oral, which is the audio, and then olfactory would be the smell. So imagine flying over a pine forest and then all of a sudden smelling pine. That's the effect we're going after. And then the brakes work just like regular brakes. The throttle works like regular throttle. The kill switch isn't a kill switch, and depending on which simulation you're in, we've got one where you're in Afghanistan and you can fire missiles from a PPG, and that's pretty exciting, especially for the kids. And we've got some helicopters in there you can
For the
shoot.
kids, for the 45-year-olds too. It was exciting. Are you kidding? Dave Ruff is going, yeah, count me in on that.
But it in that particular one, we keep score, and there are trucks and tanks and guard shacks, and you know, you can get in there and fly around, and then everything's piped out to a TV so the people that are standing around can watch it.
Yeah. Do you have any video of what each sim looks like, or is it pretty much copyright? You don't want that information out there?
I don't have any video. One of the things you got to realize is that it isn't video that we're showing you. It's actually being generated in real time. So every frame we put up a different picture, and those frames are running at least 90 frames per second.
Right. There's a question from the chat, and I know you and Dave Ruff made a deal right before the show started. Dave is going to be joining you everywhere you go. So if someone does smack into a tree, what's going to happen to them, Dave? What are you going to do? Smack right there at the tree branch. Yes. So there's your answer, John. Someone will be smacking you from now on with a tree branch, just to make this more realistic.
And if you need, I've got everything from black locust, hickory. Now, black locust has the spike on it. We got your pops, we got your elms, your ashes, your maples, your tall trees, your short trees, your big trees, and your fat trees. So you just let me know, and we got you.
Do you have any tickler ash over there in Texas? You grow tickler ash, don't you?
Yeah, baby. We got your tickler.
All right.
What the hell?
So interesting story. When we had it.
Go back to my question first, which was, okay, so I sit down and then you're going to say to me, okay, which simulation would you like? What are the different simulations? You said Afghanistan was one.
We've got the Afghanistan one. We've got another Afghanistan one that's just flying, because a lot of people get on and they go, I don't want to shoot anything. So we have a sim for them. It's the same environment as the shooter. And then we've got a now I got to think.
Just regular.
I've got a slalom circuit. So I don't know if anybody's been following Slalomania, but they have the world slalom championships in Egypt, and it's 5 pylons set up in the middle of the water, 4 on the outside and 1 in the middle, and they literally can create endless numbers of patterns that you have to fly. And when you fly it, you get it the day of the competition, and then you've got to memorize it, and then you've got to go fly the thing. And if you go out of order, then you're disqualified, and fastest person around the pylons wins. Well, we recreated that with simulation, and a lot of people have tried it. A lot of fun. We have another one that's just like a backyard flyer, an environment with a bunch of trees and some mountains. I have a new one that I just added called Dinosaur Island, where I've got a volcanic island and a bunch of dinosaurs, and you can fly around and see them. So we've got several. We've got another one that we've been playing around with that's for network. So I've got 2 of these in the same area, and we've been playing around with networking 2 of them together, so 2 people can fly in at the same time.
Well, that'd be cool.
So one of the I guess my only complaint when I did it was it seemed like 90 seconds, I think is how long you put someone in there for. 90 seconds just goes by and it feels like 10 seconds. I mean, is there any way that I guess someone could fly longer if they wanted to, or it kind of goes back to the whole, are we going to incorporate this back into schools and have people learn?
The problem with like taking it to the Bad Apples or taking it to Sun and Fun, Tim Gaskins and I, who was on here not too long ago, we just got back from Oshkosh and we took it up to Oshkosh. And when you're in an environment like that, and people are lined up, 90 seconds is, for the general public, is one, long enough for them to get a sense of what it is. But two, 90 seconds, if somebody's going to get sick, they're going to get sick after 90 seconds. So we took it to Bad Apples. People were lining up to get into it. You don't want people standing around too long. You want to give everybody the chance to do it. There were people that came back and they were the only ones there, and I've got it set up where I can hit C after the end and it'll continue and take you from right where you left off for longer. But yeah, I can go in and change the settings and change the time limits.
Yeah, my guess for me personally, as someone that does fly, it was like, oh, this is really cool. This is pretty realistic. Now I'm going to go back and get on my paramotor and fly. But I can see how there's a lot of spectators that were at the fly-in, and that'd be really cool for them if they've never done it, or if someone is considering getting into paramotoring, but just, wants to just try it out. Idea.
Especially like in the beginning when I was watching Tucker videos and all I could think about was flying and wanted to do it. Man, I would have loved to have done that.
Yeah. Well, think of this too. Most people have significant others that don't do this. And to be able to give them that sensation of what it's like, what you experience. We put a lot of wives and a lot of girlfriends in this thing and give them the opportunity to see what it's like. And they get out going, wow. Some of them go, wow, I need to do this too.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. Very cool.
But we took this to Palm Bay, and then we took it to Beach Blast. And at the time, it was very arcade-ish flight dynamics. And had invited Jeff Goen to come up and see us at the school, at the university, and be a SME for us. And he came in and sat down, and we asked him a bunch of questions about specific things about flight dynamics so that we could get this to be better and more realistic. And he provided us with all kinds of information. And Jeff's a Southwest captain. He flies PPG. He's got a Bonanza. He's got a helicopter. Understands PPG flight better than anybody I know. But what you don't understand is Jeff's also a programmer. And he went home and spent 5 weeks tinkering around with flight dynamics. And he came up with the flight dynamics that we're using today. We got his code, and it took us a while to integrate it. And we had to make changes from what he was doing to what would work with us. And what you experienced at Sun and Fun or Bad Apples, or even at WOW, I took it down to WOW one year, is the flight dynamics that Jeff came up with, and it's very realistic. But one of the things that the Unity application is, Unity game engine is that it's very, very complex, and it has its own physics system. And Jeff did not understand all of those components of that system. And so when he wrote it, he did all his own stuff. And so it eliminated us from being able to treat it as a rigid body and do things to it like add wind effects. And Jeff's on to another programming project, but he needed to learn Unity a little bit better and get a better understanding of it. So he started playing around with the physics system. And we had him up at the school on Friday. And we're working with him on physics, and anybody that knows or understands the math behind this stuff, we're trying to convince him to use quaternions in the calculations because it's going to make his life a whole lot easier. So
Rob,
we're in the process of phase 2 with the flight dynamics for this thing.
Rob, I think you just lost most of us here anyway, the guys on the panel I speak for. But anyway, we had a question from the chat. We had one from Carl McGee. It says there he's a gay pirate, no, sky pirate. His question was, how long does it take to move and set up for the next event?
It takes about an hour to set up, and it takes about an hour to tear down. And one of the things that I went into this with from the get-go was to try and create something that I could give people that struggle with life's daily tasks the opportunity to try this and experience flight. And so the one I'm currently working on, and it's the one I took up to Oshkosh, it is set up so that I can take the harness off, back a wheelchair in, hook up a couple bungees, and that person can fly a paramotor.
That's awesome.
And
that's going to be awesome to share that experience with so many people.
It is. Took it to the wheelchair games a couple years ago and set it up. And this was the national wheelchair games competition that was held in Florida a couple years ago. And we probably put, I don't know, a couple hundred guys in wheelchairs into this thing and let them experience flight. And that was absolutely incredible. At Oshkosh this year, we put a lady came by. They had just had a 5K that they ran on the airstrip, and she was pushing a wheelchair. Her son got cerebral palsy, and she was pushing him in running with him in this 5K. And they came by, and the dad was looking to get into this, wanted to try it. So we put him in the simulator, convinced mom she should go in the simulator. And then we looked at her and said, "You want us to put Eric in?" And she looked at us like we were crazy and says, "Can we do that?" And we unhooked everything, backed him up. I've got video of it somewhere. I think I posted it to my Facebook site. But he got in, we put the headset on him, and I flew because he couldn't use his hands. But I flew, and Dad sat there, and he moves back and forth and has jerky motions, and Dad held the headset on him, and they knew from his reactions and how he was talking or making sounds that he was having a great time.
Wow.
And they were just absolutely tickled to death that we were able to do this for them. And that's the thing about it. It's set up so that, like I said, it takes a couple minutes to unhook the harness and then bungee a wheelchair to it. And, like I said, somebody that's
incredible to be able to share that with people.
Yeah.
Dave, did you have a question?
Yeah, I sure do. I doing this level, is this a viable training method for aerobatics?
So one of the things about this particular system, the way it's written right now, is that we can't do aerobatics. In fact, we can't go over 90 degrees.
Okay.
And that's one of the limitations of the way it was programmed, the way Jeff programmed it. And with the quaternions that I talked about before, being able to do a barrel roll is something that could be done. So we're looking at that for version 2.
Yeah, that seems to me that it'd be an incredible way to start training for wing overs, for stalls, for sats, things
Well, if you think about it, one of the hardest things to really get proficient at is that muscle memory needed in using your throttle and the brakes. When you're getting ready to do your first solo, you're thinking about bringing the wing up, you're thinking about this 60-pound weight on your back and adding power and adding brakes, and that whole combination of things can be difficult for some people, and some people can't manage it, and it takes them time. Well,
no,
if you
it's
put somebody,
overwhelming.
yeah, if you put somebody in the simulator and just have them fly around, they get used to that and develop that muscle memory where, you know, holding that throttle and then being able to squeeze it with 2 fingers and hold your brake handle with the other 2 fingers, or however you do it, not hitting your kill switch, all of that stuff. You build that muscle memory, and now the only thing you need to think about is bringing the wing up and running. The other thing is, you know, if I'm a trainer and I have 1 week with a student, and we go out there, and on Tuesday we've got inclement weather, and then on Thursday we've got inclement weather, and then on Saturday we've got inclement weather, my teaching time has just had to stretch. I'm going to have this person back to make up for those days, or else I'm going to send them home with incomplete training. And, you know, you can put them in a simulator and say, okay, this is all it takes to let your tremors out, or this is all it takes to use your speed bar. I remember I didn't put my trim out for a long time because I was just afraid to do it.
We were having a conversation about that about 2 weeks ago. I was the same way. I don't think I touched my trimmers for the first probably 20, 30 flights. And then the first time I did, I literally did this. Oh, you know, what's going to happen?
You pop those trimmers, and all of a sudden you feel this dunk, and you go, what did I do? Well, if you can feel that before you ever have to do it in the air, it becomes a no-brainer. And those are the kind of things that this environment would train you for.
So, Rob, I have a couple questions for you. First question is on that same note. In future versions, will you be able to set this up for, I don't know, somewhat of SIV courses where you can train someone to do full stalls and things like that?
There's going to be a limit to what we're going to be able to do, but yeah, a full stall, sure.
Okay.
We don't have it stall right now because it's more of a public thing.
Mm-hmm.
And if you stall somebody that's never done this before,
you're gonna freak out.
Hey, I've had people get in and totally freak out because it's so real. We kind of start you in off the ground in the air, and we in one of these environments we take you over a cliff, and I had a lady just totally freak out on me, took the headset off, said no, I can't do it. because it's so realistic.
So I want to ask you about practicality of this, because you didn't charge anything when I saw you at Bad Apples, and quite frankly, for 2 minutes, you probably could have charged $5 to $10, and I'd have gladly paid you for it. Okay. I would imagine most people that are training, most businesses are training, they're training, anywhere from 2 to 6, maybe 8 students at a time every couple of weeks. And they probably, for what everything is involved with this, it's probably a huge price tag that they're not going to be able to afford, unless maybe Aviator, a bigger school like that, might be able to put something in. What's the practicality of a school having one of these things?
Well, I've been the one that was up at the Bad Apples is actually for sale. There was a situation in down here, and somebody bought one and put it in an environment as an arcade thing, and it didn't work out, and health problems and whatnot. And so the reason that one was up there was Mike Britt was trying to sell it. And that one's still for sale if anybody
Which leads us to the next question. What would one of these
contact
cost?
Mike Britt or Cece. I've since, because I actually went and talked to Aviator, and I even took one of my simulators down to Aviator to WOW. And we were talking, and they wanted to check back with me. I think I saw him at Oshkosh, and then they wanted to get back with me in about October, November timeframe.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think that's around the time when Travis left. So nothing happened there. But in the meantime, I was looking at it going, there's no way a school is going to be able to afford this model.
Mm-hmm.
So I built another model, and it's set up so that it can be purchased in pieces. So if you've got a computer with a heavy-duty graphics card, if you've got a headset, because a lot of people have them now, if you have a TV that you can pipe out the secondary signal to, if you've got your own harness, if you've got your own risers, it brings the cost down considerably. So that's where I'm looking at now.
Can you give us a range of what we'd expect to pay? For instance, as you just said, if we have all these elements to start with, what the low end might be, and if we needed everything right from turnkey out the door, everything, what it would come to?
Turnkey out the door with this current setup would be 16 grand.
16,000. Okay.
That would be a heck of a mango thing.
The setup that would go into a museum. I've got one up at the museum in the EAA museum up in Oshkosh. A setup that would go like that's got everything internalized and it's set up for safety. Those are going to be 20 grand. But if you have a lot of this equipment, it could be as low as 4 grand.
Oh, that's not bad.
There are golf simulators out there that run 5 to 9 grand. I mean, that's right in line with that. And
no, it is
absolutely incredible.
It is, because when you start thinking about the technology that's involved, there's a lot of hardware that's involved in these things.
Oh yeah.
But like I said, if you've got there are 1, 2, 3, 4 main components that have to be with it, no matter how you get it. And like I said, with that kind of setup, if you've got everything else, and I'd have to talk to the person about it.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, my comment wasn't derogatory. Again, I mean that's reasonable for something.
Absolutely.
And this is the start of the technology. So I mean, imagine in 5 years where costs and everything start coming down.
Yeah,
that's just amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing technology.
Yeah, the only thing I can't do is simulate taking off and landing. I can simulate approach, but I can't simulate taking off and landing, and that seems to be what every trainer wants.
Well, you're probably not far away from it. I mean, I'm sure that could probably be figured out. Heck, even incorporate a treadmill into it or something.
Yeah, but then you're getting more into the costs again, and it right now we're just trying to keep it simple.
Yeah.
The beauty of the setup is that if you put a speed bar on your harness and hook your harness up to this setup, your speed bar works like it would in the air.
No kidding.
There's no changes you have to make.
That's incredible. So, Rob, not to get off topic too quickly here, but I heard recently you and Tim Gaskins started on another little project. You want to enlighten us a little bit? Tell us about that.
So I have a lot of simulators. I have the PPG simulator, but I'm also working on a wingsuit simulator.
Like skydiving wingsuit?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm also working on a hang glider trike simulator. And once I started working on that and realized I could do a weight shift type environment, I volunteer down at Sun and Fun. I've done it for the last 5 years, and we work the flight line. And John Moody comes out, and we launch him in the mornings and the afternoons. And John Moody, for those of you that don't know, is the father of ultralights. And he's the first one to take an easy riser and put a motor on it, and he built the very first ultralight.
Awesome. Yeah.
Every year he flies his first ultralight out at Sun and Fun, and he has it set up as a display also.
I've had the privilege of seeing him fly several times at Sun and Fun. My dad, Gorilla Ground, has been going there for like 31 years, and I've been there a lot of years. And awesome time.
Yeah. So I thought, what better a piece of aviation history to make simulator out than to make one out of an easy riser. So I started looking around and asking for, I contacted John, looking for plans. I was just going to fabricate my own mock-up of an easy riser. And I got a lot of advice from John. There's John's easy riser.
Right there, yeah.
So he flies with a dead man's stick in his mouth that he has to pinch that keeps the motor running. And pitch is controlled by weight shift. And then there's two tubes that he turns, and they're connected to the ruddervators out on the wingtips, and that's what he steers with. So at Bad Apples this year, I was talking to Lance Marzak. Now, if you know Lance Marzak, Lance is a collector of all things, and Lance has got a bar in Kankakee, Illinois, and it just so happened that the voice of Oshkosh, Frank Beagle, lived in Kankakee, and Lance talked to Frank and said, "I'm looking to put something in my bar, and you know, I want something aviation like to hang in my bar. And he goes, well, I'm not going to fly my Easy Riser anymore. Says, you want to take it and put it in your, I said, sure. So he gave his Easy Riser to Lance. Lance took the trailer and the Easy Riser and he stuck it in the woods, and it's been sitting in the woods forever.
There it is.
And at Bad Apples, he said, I was telling him about it, and he says, hey, he says, I've got an Easy Riser. I says, and you can have it. So on our trip to Oshkosh, we stopped off in Kankakee and pulled this thing out of the trailer and assembled it. And this is what it looks like. It's a little worse for wear, but I think we can clean it up enough and make a virtual reality simulator out of it.
I noticed that prop has got your name on it already.
It does.
Yeah.
There is a company out of California that make Catto props.
Nice.
A
little worse for wear, but that sure is a piece of history.
It is. And so Frank Beagle, the voice of Oshkosh, elected into the EAA Hall of Fame, has this Easy Riser with a motor on it. And the rudder vaders out on the outside edge, outside wings, that one's got Bill Moy's signature on it. And the other one has got Francis Regallo's signature on it.
Wow.
Now, if you know anything about ultralights, Bill Moy is the father of hang gliding, and Francis Regallo is the originator of the Regallo wing.
Very awesome.
And my goal is to get John Moody to sign one of them, and then get the guy that made the Easy Riser. His last name's Mora. John Mora? Anyway, to get both of them to sign it. And that would just be an amazing piece of history.
That's pretty awesome. I'd fly it with wheels on it, but not foot launch.
No, virtually you could do whatever you wanted, right?
Now,
Rob, wheels on it, that's a good looking machine. Foot launch,
I heard is it true that Orville Wright commissioned this?
No. So the airport that Frank Beagle flew out of is Kerner Airport. And the old man Kerner had his flight ticket signed off on by Orville Wright. And they've got a picture of it's quite amazing that there's somebody over there that signed off on your flight ticket, your pilot's license.
That's really cool.
It happened to be Orville Wright.
It's an awesome part of part 103 history, for sure.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah.
That's what started it all. That Easy Riser with a motor on it.
Oh, there we go. And screen capture, thank you. And for my next video. So very cool. Well, I don't know. We lost Nicole, but she was having a tough drive, and I think it got dark. We couldn't see her anymore.
Nicole can still hear us. It was just real dark, so I think we took her screen away. But she can unmute, I think, and talk to us if she's still there. Nicole, you still there?
She was hanging in there.
I am still here.
All right.
We're glad to know you're still with us in spirit anyway.
I am.
Are you on 95 yet?
I am on 95.
There you go. So you got a couple hours left.
Yes,
Well, you should have stopped at Rob's house.
19 minutes.
You should have stopped
Nicole, you should see the gestures that Paramotor Crazy and PPG Gorilla are making towards your screen.
No.
Oh, I can see my screen.
Yeah. See?
Oh,
Yeah.
darn.
Not funny.
Troublemaker.
Funny. So,
Any more?
what's the timeline of getting that thing up and running there, Rob? What do you think?
getting it up and running as a simulator?
Yes.
Well, one of the things I'd want to do is be able to fly the Sun and Fun environment and the Oshkosh ultralight environment.
Mm-hmm.
And I've already got that. That's done. In fact, in the process of doing the hang glider trike simulator, I had already gone out and got those two components. So now it's just a matter of cleaning this thing up, and then I've got flight dynamics for the hang glider trike. So the next thing would be to develop the flight dynamics for the Easy Riser, and then also a virtual model of the thing. So that's going to take some time. It would be nice to be able to take it back next year for Oshkosh. The goal is to have the hang glider trike for Sun and Fun.
Nice.
I would definitely like to try those out.
Where will you be at Sun and Fun, Rob? I'm sure in Paradise City, somewhere there, right?
Paradise City, yeah, right in front of the tent.
Nice, yeah. Boy,
Yeah.
If anybody has ever been to Sun and Fun, there, Paradise City is a place to be. What is it? The Palm Bay or Palm Coast Flyers or Coconut Flyers? That's it. Man, they have a party over there every year with free beer and oh man, great time. I think I got kicked out of there this year, maybe.
Were there coconut flavored drinks there?
No, that was different coconut. Was it Coconut Flyers? Yeah, that's it.
Do you
Coconut.
recognize that?
That needs to go out in the sun for a while and brown up a little bit.
And Rob, what else do you fly?
So I've been flying since 2005. I put together my first unit. Jim Jackson and Sky Cruiser were going out of business, and Chuck DeSantis bought his old frame parts. So I got a Sky Cruiser frame from Chuck DeSantis and put it together and powder coated it all myself. And then I got a Black Devil from Alex Varv, and put that on. And then I had the first version of the Muse 28, and I flew that for quite a while. The Sky Cruiser, the Black Devil, is known for being a cantankerous starter, and also known to get really hot. And if you land, you basically couldn't start it back up again. And there were a lot of solutions to that problem. Some guys put phenolic spacers on between the carburetor and the intake. I just got so fed up with it that Mike Britt and I built a manifold and put a Mikuni carburetor on it. So I had a Sky Cruiser frame with a Black Devil motor with a Mikuni carb on it. And I flew that all the way up until a couple years ago, last year. And you know how you are when you're at the beginning of your PPG, it's like, it's all you can think about. It's all you can do. I've been flying 14, 15 years. And so I don't have that need to fly every day. So I started looking for an alternative and ran across this new site and new motor called Open PPG. And so I have gone the route of the electric paramotor and gave my motor to Mac Hodges of Hodges Field at the Bad Apples field. And Mac put it on a hang glider. Get this. Mac put it on a goat and he put wheels on it. And at the Bad Apples Fly-In, he flew that thing. And that had my Paramotor motor, my Black Devil on it. And he loved it. And that's the history of my motor.
That thing he was flying, it was real slow.
Yeah.
The paramotors were keeping up with.
Yeah.
Oh,
it had a Black Devil, it had my Black Devil paramotor on there.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
He was flying around and there were like 5, 6 paramotors following him. Right. Keeping up with him. Perfect.
So the paramotor I've got now is basically a quad turned vertical. It's got 4 motors on it. They spin in opposite directions. So 2 on the left and 2 on the right, or diagonally, they all spin differently. So there's 0 torque. And because they're brushless motors and they're very tuned, I have no vibration. And I get about 160 pounds of thrust. Now, the only issue with this whole setup is time. So I get about 30 minutes out of my battery charge. And I have 4 batteries. They're 25,000 milliamp hour batteries. And it takes me, with the charger setup I've got, it takes me about an hour, a little more, to charge the batteries up. And everything all together, all up, weighs 40 pounds.
Wow. Now, weren't you trying out different wings, or Jeff was trying out different wings with the electric motor to see, if you could get more time out of a more efficient wing? Wasn't that happening at Bad Apples?
Yeah, I'm trying to find and I've been talking to Rob Catto. He's got a wing, an Advance, and he flew from Jacksonville all the way up to Tybee Island, I think, or somewhere up there, and used very little gas.
Sigma 9.
Yeah.
So it's an advanced Sigma 9, and it's 23 meters.
Right. So that's one of the wings that I want to try, and I think he was going to leave it for me, and something happened, and it didn't happen. But still, one of the wings I want to try and see if I can't get 45 minutes. But battery technology in the next 3 to 5 years is going to change, and it's going to get to the point where, whether it's a quad or a single engine, single prop setup, I think that's the way of the future. It's just, I don't have to deal with gas. I don't have to deal with oil. I don't have to deal with carburetors.
Yeah, we're going to have some big battery changes coming in the near future. I agree. We had a couple questions from the chat. Rob, I'm sorry. We had a question from Glenn Tussing. What do you do volunteer-wise at Sun and Fun? And Glenn also said, Dave, you should put your hat back on because we can see your brain through the gray hair.
I volunteer at Paradise Island, and I volunteer with the Air Ops unit. So I'm on the flight line.
Very nice.
I launched the planes.
Very nice.
Or help, where there's a whole group of us that do it.
And another question, what's the lead time on a open PPG? How long is the wait time?
So they are building these in batches, and they just they're just now completing batch 4. Now, I don't know how many they have in a batch. So I couldn't tell you how many go out every time. But I ordered mine. I ordered mine probably in May or June, and I got it in late August. Now, you can get this in 2 forms. You can get it in kit form, or you can get it pre-built. If you get it pre-built, it costs you an extra $400. I got mine in kit form because for me, building this stuff is just half the fun for me.
Yeah.
And a lot of the pieces and parts are 3D printed. And it's an open source project. So everybody that has one, that's been flying one, has come up with better ways of doing things.
Improvements, yeah.
And those just get thrown out to the community. And the brothers are from Ohio, Paul and Zach Whitehead, and they adapt the things that make it better. I've added several things myself. The current throttle that they have is a thumb throttle, and for any of you that use your thumbs to bring the A's up, it's a conundrum because you can't you can't add power on the way up. So you got to bring your wing all the way up, and then you got to flip your thumb out and go to the throttle.
So let me ask the question everybody wants to know. As far as open source PPG, what about trikes? Is it coming? We can haul more batteries. We can have bigger motors.
There's a guy in the community that is getting ready to do that, to make a trike. But John Magic, who has been flying PPGs since the early 90s, when I was at Oshkosh, I told him what I had done, and he was so enthralled that the next day he had his credit card out and he was calling him up ordering one. Well, he just left Oshkosh and bought a Kolb, and it's not the regular Kolb ultralight. But it's one of the versions of the Kolb, and he literally took his open PPG unit and he stuck it on the back to see if it fit, and he's planning on taking his open PPG electric unit and converting the Kolb to electric.
Nice.
See, I don't see where they asked that question there, PPG Gorilla. I think you threw that in there because
I saw
Dave's a trike.
I saw it in the chat. David was right down there. You must notice. Hey, maybe we'll start our own.
The interesting thing for me about this was that when I started adding everything up, it was cheaper for me to go this route than it was to go buy a brand new paramotor, a gas paramotor.
Yeah, I bet.
Which you're talking brand new anywhere from $8,000 to $12,000. I'm all in to this setup for $5,000.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
And you said 45-minute flight time is typical?
No, mine's 30.
Okay. Well,
I'm trying to get to 45 with a different wing.
A free flight wing might be a little more efficient.
That's what this is. It's a free flight wing.
Yeah, that's what the Sigma 9 is.
Isn't bad, especially if you're using that to go catch some thermal.
Right. No, there's a guy that flew for 4 hours with one of these things because he went and did some ridge lift, caught some ridge lift. Yeah.
Nice.
But so the battery pack is 20 pounds, and the whole setup is 19 pounds. So, you know, you're talking anywhere from 40 to 50 pounds, depending on what else you throw on it. And there's nothing out there that all up is going to be 40 pounds.
No.
There's a lot of frames that are 40 pounds. But
Not even the Atom 80, David. Not even the Atom 80.
Now, the Atom 80 is just like the Nitro 200, but maybe 3 pounds lighter. That's it.
Weighs about the same as my left ass cheek.
It's not that heavy, Rick.
What, his ass cheek or the motor?
His ass cheek.
Oh.
No, that's great, man. Light, that's lightweight, that's nice. But, you know, realistically, a lot of people, 30-minute flight time is enough. I mean, if you're not doing long rides, long cross countries.
Yeah, and it's enough for me right now. I can launch out of my backyard.
Yeah.
You know, so
you don't have to drive an hour to fly. You can go out your back door and fly for half an hour and go in the house and go to bed.
I can.
Yeah.
What is the typical charge time on something like that?
So the way these batteries work, they're lipos. So 3.2 volts is basically discharged. And then you charge them up to 4.2. And if you are storing them, you bring them back down to 3.8. So when you're flying this thing, your throttle's basically got a computer in it, and it keeps track of what percentage of battery life you've got left. And when you get down to about 10%, you need to keep an eye on it and start heading home. Now, if you land and you're at 0%, when you get everything done and unhooked up and, you know, plug your batteries back into a sensor again, they're probably going to read 3.5 volts. So there's a little bit of safety built in. What you don't want to do is run them down past 3.2 volts, because that's when you start running into trouble with lipos. So from 3.2 volts all the way up to 4.2 volts probably takes me about 2 hours. With my charger, I can charge 2 batteries at the same time. And I can charge them at a full 1C, which is 25 amps. Now, if they're in storage at 3.8 volts, I can get everything charged up in less than an hour.
Now,
So-
can you carry that extra battery and switch it out during flight?
No, but there are some people that have added 2 more batteries and they fly with 6. And there are a couple that have tried to fly with 8. But for me, it doesn't make any sense, because you might as well fly a gas paramotor then, because you're back up to, you know, 70 pounds.
Again, I mean, marketing to free flyers, you know, flatlanders, you know, where you get up, you got enough power to get up to 800-900 feet, shut it down.
Oh yeah,
Catch the, you know.
yeah, no,
That's
absolutely,
beautiful.
absolutely. And there's the thrust on this thing is absolutely incredible. It's more thrust than I need.
Well, I mean, the thrust stuff, as I've learned over the years, is never usually correct until you get it up on the sled. But you know, they say my 200 kicks out somewhere around 155, 160 pounds of thrust, and that's what those electric motors do. That is a lot of thrust in a really light package.
Right.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And if my prop breaks, it costs me $30.
What other issues or non-issues do you have that anyone flying without a battery or flying everybody else basically has? So let me kind of say that again.
Here's one of the other than time, this is the other big issue that comes with it. If I'm driving home from work and my buddy Tim calls me and says, let's go fly, I can't drive home, pick up my gear, and go. I got to charge my batteries, because you don't want to keep your batteries at full charge for more than 48 hours. So if I know I'm going to be flying on the weekend, I'll charge them Thursday, Friday, and then I'll let them sit. If I don't fly, I'll discharge them on Monday. Then, you know, that spontaneity is there. But otherwise, if they're at storage charge, I got to wait an hour to get them charged up before I can go do anything.
So Rob, my question also is, with LiPo batteries, and they are, well, they can be a little bit dangerous. Does that concern you a little bit, having that quote bomb strapped to your back?
You know, when I first got into this, it was a concern. But most of your problems are going to happen during the charging process.
Yeah.
And if you are in the charging process and you can detect whether or not you've got an issue with a cell, and you decide to go fly with a bad cell, you're going to be putting yourself in a dangerous situation.
Then you've put yourself at risk. Yep.
Exactly. So bottom line, it's pre-flight. You know, if you pre-flight and everything's good, and you've got 4 batteries that are all charged to 4.2 volts or 3.98 volts, you're good to go. And have yet to hear of anybody that's had an issue with a battery in the air with one of these systems.
No, you're right. It's always either during charging or a battery, a cell that's damaged is the only time.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I look forward to the advancements that are coming soon in LiPos or in batteries in general.
You know, it's not going to be long before you're able to fly on a set of batteries for a whole hour.
Yeah.
And I mean fly, you know, do whatever the hell you want.
Yeah.
And when we get to that point in time, you're going to have a lot of people switching just because of the advantages. If, you know, I went through that whole time where, you know, an hour and a half, 2-hour flight, you know, and 5 or 6 of us, and we just took off 30 miles out and then, you know, 30 miles back, and great fun, but I don't need to do that anymore. So for me, this was the, you know, the perfect solution for the type of flying I do now. Don't forget, you know, if I feel like I need to fly, I can always jump in the simulator.
Yeah, for sure.
What about noise?
That's always available to me.
Rob, how much quieter are the electric motors than the gas motors?
It's a different sound. It's a higher pitch sound. And, you know, some people say they're louder. Other people say they're quieter. It's just, it's going to be an opinion. But definitely it's a higher pitched sound. And they're quieter farther away, because that low pitch of the motor is going to travel farther than the high pitch.
I would imagine that an electric motor at cruise would be quite a bit quieter when you're sitting up there 200-300 feet over the ground.
Yeah.
As compared to a gas motor.
Yeah. Yep.
With the exhaust pointing down. Yeah, absolutely.
Good. Well, that's very cool. Very awesome. Any more questions from the panel? Anything else you want to add, Rob?
I'd just like to add real quickly, Gorilla, I know you were sick, and I can't wait to go back to the beginning of this video and see how white your face looks versus how red it looks now, and just to see what a fever can do to a man over the course of an hour and a half.
I can feel it. I can feel it. I'm hot.
Why do you feed the gorilla? Why?
It's always fun to poke at an animal, a wild one.
Guys, I thank you guys, man. Thanks for having me on here. Thanks, Rob Catto, for coming on. Everybody, please consider going to the Patreon at www.ourparamotornation.com. You can become a Patreon for as little as $5 a month and get exclusive content, private videos, after-show content, all that good stuff. See all the craziness that goes on here with these guys. We have a lot of fun. The Crazy Hat Club, we call it. Rob, thanks a lot for coming on, and thanks for everything you brought to us tonight. We appreciate you, buddy.
Sure, no problem.
Paramotor Crazy, anything else to say?
Oh, guys, thanks again for joining us. It's always fun, always educational. Thank you, Rob. Appreciate it.
Sure.
Nicole's out there somewhere.
Dave Ruff, Trike Flyer, Nicole Phoenix,
Thank you, Rob.
for coming along.
You bet.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
All right, guys, until next time, Gorilla out.